So, why on earth are you pursuing a career in film and television? Why on earth are you making Film X, Show Y, Animation Z? Why are you doing this? If you do not have a clear understanding of why, you'll probably give up. You'll definitely get frustrated. You might get PTSD from the experience, and you certainly won't have as fulfilling a time working through the process of making your show as you would have if you had a clear understanding of why you even care and why you're doing this. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Let's start the discussion with scripture. Good place to start, right? 1 Peter 3:15 through 16. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ may be ashamed of their slander. Great passage. I love this passage. We should always be ready. Your testimony about your conversion, if you're Christian, your testimony about why you care about what you're doing, and certainly your testimony about why you care about a project. It's one thing to work below the line on a project and it's your paycheck, or be hired by a studio. You should still not do things that violate your conscience in those circumstances, but if you're putting forth the work as the creative force behind a project, as the writer, producer, director, you're going to put a lot of your blood, sweat, and tears, sometimes literally, into the project. You should have a good reason why you're making it. Don't just make things because you think it's going to make you money and this is going to be a quick flip. That you're going to burn out. Just that's all I'm going to say. You're going to burn out. Those films get made by people who are hired by somebody who has a large company. If you're working as kind of an independent producer, and certainly if you are working as a Christian who happens to have an avocation to making film and television, have a reason for what you're doing. Be ready to say why. If you're going to be at Thanksgiving dinner and people are talking about, well, why on earth is Ashley doing this crazy film thing? Be ready to give an answer. Don't do this haphazardly. One of the reasons I am in this industry is to try to change the world for the good. We can tell amazing stories that transform and point people toward the positive. Media tycoon Bill Moyers said, "The media did not reach the state that it is in overnight, and we cannot expect it to change overnight. It took about 50 years to get where it is. If we want to change society, we must change its icons. The fastest way to change those icons is through media." Now, Bill, of course, was heavy in media, in journalism. But he's not just talking about journalism. He's talking about the entire state of media and what is reflected in the media that we watch and consume. We need to change the icons, and we can do that. We have that power. I recently watched, a couple nights ago, finished watching The Good Place show that is not a particularly Christian worldview, but deals with the concept of heaven and hell and what happens after we die. It was done as a very secular show. I haven't done the research yet, but I would like to on the intent of the show creators and their theology, because there's theology behind everything. But we're talking about a relatively hit show that was picked up by Netflix after its run on network television. And Ted Danson, Kristen Bell, name actors, and it dealt with deep theological concepts and did it in a professional way. My point is, when we, as Christians who make films and television, cheap out or say, oh, well, it's not really going to make it in the secular marketplace because it deals with heaven. No, shows that deal with heaven do. And of course, you can look at the success of The Chosen and other super Christian, overtly Christian films. We can make good things and we can influence the culture. They don't all have to be talk on tape, lectures, the salvation story told again. But through the stories we tell, I really believe we can change the world through media. So to recap, one of the things we're going to talk about in class is our overall motivations as Christians for creating art. One of the most common things suggested of why we do this is making the invisible visible. We look at Christ's relationship with us through becoming the Word made flesh, becoming God incarnate, that he became visible to show us what is invisible and what is real and true and tangible. Even if we can't see it, we know it is real. And we as artists can speak to the soul in a way that can't always happen. One of my favorite sayings is, if you want to tell somebody what's wrong with them today, make it 100 years in the future on Mars. When we have that separation, there is so much we can say. As you can see, I recorded some of this presentation a year ago for last time. Now I am updating. So some of the slides are ones where I'm like, oh yeah, what I said made a lot of sense. And some are going to be new. So this one continues on with the new. Really think about your motivations. Guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. Challenges are coming. Your path needs to be driven by passion. If you are doing this just to have a job, guys, look at the industry. Now is not the time. Let me think of an easy career to get into. Gee, let me go into film. No. If you are in any of the crew groups, you'll see droves and droves of people talking about the state of the industry, driving them to homelessness and having to drain their entire savings and working in other careers and making mid-year career shifts. Do this if you're passionate about it, or if you are just studying because this is ancillary to your primary job and this is something that is supportive. Great. Know what your primary job is and why you care. Your motivations have to be clear, because the rewards will come, but they are after and in conjunction with all the challenges, stress, and doubt. I would love to find a statistic on how many producers who have therapists on call. It's challenging, guys. This is not an easy career. It's not an easy path. This isn't just pick up an iPhone or a GoPro and go film your house and you doing a selfie and bam, you're a sensation. No, creating media takes discipline, collaboration, and leadership. So there will be challenges, there will be stress, you will doubt yourself, you will doubt everyone around you. So that's why we're bothering to look at your deep motivations before you delve too deep in this industry. All right, so let's talk about a few of the wrong types of motivations. And if this is why you're here, I would highly encourage you to reconsider. If you're looking for fame through your work, there are a lot of other avenues where it's a whole lot more likely to happen. Trying to get fame as an animator or filmmaker, it's tough. Very few actually get there. And if you do, it's probably short-lived. And if your focus is on getting to fame and you're operating for your ego, it can totally shut down and kill the creative workflow, which leads to idolizing your own projects and thinking whatever you say, it's got to be the best thing, which leads to really, really, really bad creativity and poor leadership and team management. Another really bad one that is so common is money. I love my spreadsheets. I love looking at how this can work and this can work, and you have to for a business plan. But if you're doing the show only with the goal of making money, you are so open to manipulation, humiliation, degradation, all in that pursuit of money. You also get unrealistic expectations for what money can do. If I just make this money, it's going to lead to here, this is going to be great, I'm going to get this house, it's going to be awesome. And that gets to envy, sadness, disillusionment. Now, that all said, I'm not saying do that very, very dangerous path of, oh, if I'm just doing what I love, I don't need to get paid. You need to be supported in doing what you love if this is your career. I am not saying do not look for a career and making a show where you won't be able to pay your bills. You should be paid fairly for the work you're going to do. If you're going to go into it though worrying about whether you're making a lot of money or not. You shouldn't do it. Art is a very difficult career, but the rewards outweigh the monetary benefit. Do the work that inspires you. Make sure you're not being taken advantage of while you do it. And eventually the money will flow. If you're doing the art that you are passionate about and to excellence and following the kind of things that we're teaching you here at Regent, hopefully the money will follow. Or if this is not your career path but a hobby, it will be made clear to you. Keep discerning. Keep looking at your motivations and what God is telling you. Another bad one is power. Guys, this is so collaborative. What we do is collaborative. The person at the top, the producers, need to be looking at really servant leadership and putting the cast and crew before him or herself. If you've got this big ego and you just want to get all the credit, this is a lonely ride and it is not worth it. Absentee creators, why are you doing this? The crew needs vision, the production needs direction. You need to be there, present, not looking at just creating something that gets you a paycheck. Go make stock footage if that's what you want. Don't try to create a show. So focus on your strengths and learn along the way and try to build lasting work collaborations and friendships. Someone brought this up the first week of class. We don't intermingle between animations and cinema television students so that somebody can be basically taken advantage of for what they can do. We do this because we collaborate better together and build friendships and work relationships that lead for everyone succeeding. All right, so a little bit of a reality check on creating a series, if we haven't already been real enough. You will be challenged. There will be so many hurdles. You may go in with the best pitch, Bible, deck, business plan, marketing plan, everything ready to go. You're still going to hit lots of challenges. So you have to look at them as hurdles. Each one you got to jump over and keep moving. The long hours, it can consume all of your available time. So you've got to have that reality check. This is not a quick path. It's going to test your limits and especially your relationships. If you are married or have kids, you need to have real conversations and real thought about where is your vocational responsibility and where is your avocational responsibility to creating a series. What are the things that you have obligations to parents or siblings or others? Make sure that you're communicating with people. It's going to test your relationships. Now, you may have to let go of your project at some point. This makes people struggle so many times that I've seen, that you reach a point where you've poured all your efforts into this show that you've created, and there's a point where your best choice is letting go and relinquishing ownership of your work with a legal buyout and moving it on to somebody else. It's tough. There's also the risk that all you're doing may never make a dime. Royalty money may never show up. You may never reach anyone who wants to buy it. All of this work may have just been an exercise. It doesn't mean it's wasted, but this particular show may never take off. It could get canceled at any time or any stage in the process. You do not know when the brakes will get put on, either because of a studio head, an executive producer, or your life situation. If you're self-funding this, you've got to be aware it may get stopped, and that has to not destroy your world, because our world is based on Christ and our faith, not on a show. So it's a balancing act. You've got to prioritize your show and what you're working on so that it gets the honor and attention it deserves and the work it needs, but not put so much into it that you'll be devastated if it stops. Now, all of that said, here are some reasons to move forward in creating a show. And I use show as a series, a season, a movie. A show is kind of that coined term for the big project. All right, so if you thrive in sharing your vision in a hectic environment, if that's where your talents really reside, this is great for you. If you care about making a positive impact in society, for whatever that segment of society is that you can affect through your media creation, good reason to create a show. If you have these characters that just are welling up in you, characters or a story to share, especially ones that are based on personal experiences that you just have to share. That's why we're doing this whole menu exercise for you to personally examine what are some of the things that are important to you as you look at series building. If you have those ones that are just boiling up that you have to share about, good reason to move forward. If you are just a storyteller by nature and the best fit for your artistic inclination is expression through this show, be it animation or whatever else, stick with it. If you love collaboration with other artists and you like that atmosphere, good direction. If making a show is a stepping stone to something else you're working on, another goal like creating an independent film later, or creating a studio and you know you need the experience of making a show, and maybe this show is a few $1 million show or a $10,000 show, but you have plans for a $100 million show. This is a stepping stone and you have a reason to work on it. If you have an entrepreneurial spirit, especially if what you want to do is create a better work environment, somewhere where people look forward to coming work, and you want to impact things in a positive way, and you want to do the business things, go out and pitch your show and be looking at not just the artistry, but the business end, great reason. And if you have a burning desire to share your world view, especially with an audience who can relate or to evangelize the world through media, great reason to stick with this. All right, other right motivations. So these were, go back here. Can't go back as I'm recording. All right, well, the right motivations, something that you can support a cause you can believe in. If it is a show that really rings true to your heart. My husband and I are working on something right now that is a real passion project for us, that we have a substantial goal that we are trying to achieve. And so we're working on that project. It's a long-term project. We probably won't shoot a frame of video for it for at least 3 years, but it's something we believe in. And it's something that we think will inspire and encourage others. Once you have one show that is successful, it can also get to other shows, right? And it can be a catalyst for change, both in what the people who see it and in the ethics of the media industry. And of course, if you're looking to make a show that can entertain, make people laugh, cry, feel, and it has morals and integrity well promoted in it, good reason to move forward. Now, this is a list really focused on an animation show development of some of the skills that go in. Now, they really do overlap into all film and television of things that you may need, and any of these will help you. So these are things to think about. Do I have some of these skills, or are these skills I want to develop more, right? So an ability to draw well. Even if you are not in animation, a writer who can sketch will have advantage over writers who can't draw at all, so that you can communicate your ideas. Same thing for directors. If you can draw out a rough storyboard, you're in a better place. If you have a talent for creative writing and you love to read and learn more about writing, and I don't just mean script writing, I mean the great works, Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, Ernest Hemingway, deep thinkers. Right now, I'm reading Peter Kreeft with my kids before bed and diving into philosophy. This is just as important for me as it is for them. Animation workflow, part of why you're taking this class. You need to know both how to animate a character and general knowledge of the animation workflow. If you're putting forward an unrealistic timeline because you don't know the workflow, it's going to make your show preparation and development fall flat. Likewise, general knowledge of storytelling, actors, audience-focused storytelling, theater arts, that kind of skill set is incredibly important. Filmmaking, I have worked with some animators in the past who really had no concept of shots and different camera angles and how lighting interplays with storytelling. So their storyboards didn't have all of the technical information, and they struggled to really do anything but mid-shot, 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 wide shot. So having a good knowledge of filmmaking. And of course, you're going to be directing actors if you are the director who is directing actors for voice. And of course, a lot of motion capture and other things now use real people to work on them. Music, art, acting, all of this stuff interplays. Then, of course, you have the industry. Stay up to date with what's going on.
Read everything you can. This is part of why you're doing these Q&As, and we'll be doing interviews. You need to know the business. You've got to know not just the business of animation and filmmaking, but general business savvy. What is a business plan? What is a marketing plan? How do LLCs work? All of these things come into play on the business side of show development. Does this show have a shot of breaking even? And better than that, does it have good odds of breaking even and making money? And of course, some of those kind of general life skills. Are you someone who will work hard, and can you delegate? Because you working hard is not enough. You need to be able to work with others, collaborate with them, and let people take charge of their stuff. And I am always an advocate of being a lifelong learner and an adventurer. This doesn't mean you have to go rock climb on the side of a mountain, but I mean do things that are interesting to you. Find things that continue to feed your creativity. These are just a starting point of some of the skills. Now, what do you do if you're like, oh, wow, I've got like 2 of those things? Well, one, you do need to consider your motivations. Yes, for this class, you need to learn some of these things so that you have the general business, big picture stuff, even if you're never going to create a show in the real world. But you can develop these skills. You can keep moving forward. Creating an independent film, especially as a student, is a great way to do that. Really, a lot of the things that apply for animation apply for a film. You may not need quite as much on, like animation, like character rigging, but you need to know how people move. And today, more and more, the film world integrates with animation and graphic arts. So you'll be doing all of these things. One of the best ways to learn this stuff is on short.
I am not going to lie, as you're watching this, if you're looking at a video like this and taking a class like this, you probably aren't successful already. You probably don't already have a hit show or animation or series or film out there. So how do you get there? And even if you are there, how do you keep going there? One of the biggest things, huge piece of advice, is just keep building skills. Keep working on your skill set. I encourage everyone to have a below the line skill and an above the line skill. Don't just be a writer, also be a sound mixer. Don't just be a director, also be a costume designer, or a costumer, or a hair and makeup artist. Have 2 sets of skills. Don't just be a director of photography, also be a second AC. Do something that you can do to work in the industry when you're not in an above the line position. And some of those are kind of borderline anyway. But be working. I went through a phase where if I wasn't on a paid project, I wouldn't touch it. And that meant I was working in a lot of corporate work. I wasn't getting to do creative outlets. And I had a good friend who's a director of photography and a director challenge me. If you've got the time, do a fun project. Do a short film. It's okay. Even us as professionals, we do it. What you don't do is go and work on a project where someone else is making a bunch of money, and they're just trying to get some people to work for free. But short films generally don't have paychecks attached to them. Short films get made because people want to stretch their legs, express themselves creatively, build up their resumes and reels. Yes, it's a thing. But they want to create and be constantly creating. So keep building the skills and find people who have complementary skills and want to work together. Practice. Make the short films. Do 24, 36, 48-hour film festivals. Get people together to do a one-day shoot. It's really difficult to ask people to volunteer on a feature film, and we will talk much more about that. And I also would hazard to say it's unethical to ask people to volunteer on a feature film. But if you're working on a short film for the purpose of building up skill sets and getting experience, it's okay to have passion projects. Write scripts. It costs you nothing. Yes, you could have the fancy software, which I recommend, especially for studying filmmaking, but you can also use Word or Google Docs. Just be writing. Create business plans. Is the business plan you create for a class likely to actually result in a company or a successful film? No. But when someone asks you, have you written a business plan before? You can say yes, and you will have the experience of having done it so that the second time you do it is better. I think everything is, other than the stroke of beginner's luck, the worst thing is doing something the first time. You got to do it 5, 10, 100 times to get good. So do the work. Do pre-production work. Why do we bother to make these schedules and budgets for student films that really are going to have a $20 budget for pizzas? Why do you create a budget as if you were paying people so that you practice it, so that you can see what things really should cost and that you practice it? Make marketing plans, distribution plans. Do the practice so that you can actually get there, staying constantly in tune with your motivations. Why are you doing this in the first place? As you're processing through that motivation, here are a few ideas of things you can use to brainstorm your motivations. There's a Le menu exercise from a book on writing short screenplays. I'm going to quote something from that in a minute. That's good for you personally. It also helps to do for your characters when you're writing. A goals sheet. Got one of those for you guys to work on. Put it on paper. Basically, that's the point. Write it down. There is something to writing down your motivations and your goals from just being out there in the ether and getting changed when somebody challenges you. Yes, talk with people, discuss, brainstorm, get with people and talk about why are you doing this? What is important to you in life? I have to share with you guys one of my favorite goals. When I was in grad school, we had to do this. We had to write down our goals for the next 10 years. And one of my classmates wrote down, be rejected by 10, get 10 scripts rejected by 10 producers or agents each. That way, one, she had to write 10 scripts, and two, each rejection she could check off her goal sheet. It's one of the most brilliant goals I ever saw, because guys, you're going to get rejected a lot. It's going to happen. You're going to get ghosted, and maybe you'll get somebody who says, we're not interested right now, or hate your project. You're probably not going to hear that. They're probably just going to ignore you. But it will happen. Most of what you do will not get picked up immediately, or possibly ever. But what matters is once you get through that 100 rejections and those 10 scripts, then script 11, one, you've built some relationships because you've found out who are the people who say, hey, I'm going to respond to you. I'm not interested in this, but keep in touch. So you have some people to contact, and you've also just started building relationships, and you've gotten through the rejections. So put your goals on papers, guys. Don't just leave it in the ether. Talk with people to figure it out, but then write it down for yourself. So the menu exercise. I love this quote from the author. This is in the book Crafting Short Screenplays That Connect by Claudia Hunter Johnson. Identifying those attitudes, values, and experiences that will energize our work as screenwriters, creating a menu of what we know and care deeply about. It's one of the most important things we can do as screenwriters, because our unique material and vision is the source of unique screenplays. This is going to grow ever more important in the world of AI. Your unique experiences and building unique characters is going to matter. And if you aren't a solid person who knows what your attitudes, values, and experiences are, it's very difficult to write about them. So I challenge you to take some time and think about your motivations. Use these tools and go deeper into why you're even here.